17 years ago, I was putting the finishing touches on my wedding to my then fiance, now husband, Michael. And like any good bridezilla, I had many things that I was not going to leave to chance. I absolutely wasn't going to leave the catering to chance. Food is very important to both sides of the family, so we made sure that we had the best caterer possible. We made sure that we weren't going to leave the music to chance. We wanted to make sure that we had a swing band because my husband and I had taken swing dancing lessons at the 92nd Street Y, so we wanted to make sure that that was planned perfectly. And in a family that has multiple divorces, not my own, but of parents, we certainly couldn't leave the seating plan to chance. That had to be very carefully engineered. Mona, is that an appropriate use of the term engineered? Yes. So many things that we weren't going to leave to chance, but there was one other thing that I, as a bride, was thinking about that I wasn't going to leave to chance that I don't know if every other bride thought of. What I wasn't going to leave to chance was, what was it that my husband was going to say to me the moment he saw me in my wedding dress for the first time? I'd been thinking about this moment since I was 3 years old and watching Disney movies, and I knew that on my special day, I needed it to be perfect. So about a week before the wedding, I approached Michael and I said, honey, I'm so excited for the big day. I can't believe it's coming up. And you know, there's something that's been really important to me for a long time, which is what it is that you are going to say to me in my wedding dress the first moment that you see me. So I'd like to tell you what I'd like you to say to me when you see me in my wedding dress for the first moment. So he was silent, which I interpreted as an invitation to keep going. And I said to him, okay, so the first thing I need you to do is say, oh my, right? And make it look genuine. I said, if possible, if you could have a single tear just roll down your cheek, but that might be pushing it. I know that you're an engineer, so you might not have, access to that level of emotion, no offense. But if you can do it, great. If it's too pushy, no biggie. And then after that, what I'd like you to say is, you look more beautiful than I've ever seen you look, and if I hadn't already asked you to marry me, I'd be asking you to marry me all over again. And then I said, would you like to practice a few times? Should we role play? How do you want to work this? What would be helpful? And he looked at me, with all the color having drained from his face, and uttered 2 words. I'm good. Now, there was something in his tone of voice that led me to believe that maybe he actually was the opposite of good in that moment. And I realized that I had engineered this one step too far. So the good news is we did get married. We're coming up on 17 years, which is a miracle that he still married me after that. And I realized that what I tried to do in that moment is what so many of us try to do in work and life, which is to try to get people to say exactly what it is that we want them to say and nothing more and nothing less to make our lives and jobs easier. And life doesn't work like that. How many of you have noticed that life doesn't work like that? Right? I'm a little slower than most, perhaps. It took me a while. But it doesn't work like that. We don't have people saying exactly what we want them to say. We can't engineer a conversation or a communication in exactly that way. And in fact, what that level of expectation does is it makes people feel pressured, it makes people feel judged, and it makes our relationships with people difficult. So despite the fact that I just shared that entire story with you, I am indeed a communication skills professional. But everything that I've learned along the way, I've learned from college and grad school and coaching school, but I've also learned it through messing it up in real life and saying, what could I have done differently then? So what you're going to be learning from today is a combination of my research, a combination of the work that I do in corporate, nonprofit, and government around communication and presentation skills. But a lot of this has been tested out in my home laboratory of my husband, Michael, and our now 13-year-old twins, Jacob and Sophie. So if you think I don't have daily communication challenges, let me just repeat something I just said. My 13-year-old twins Jacob, and Sophie. So every day I have the opportunity to practice what it is that we're going to be talking about today. And today our topic is mastering tricky conversations, one talk at a time. So what makes difficult conversations difficult? People. I know, wouldn't they just be so much easier if all those people got out of the way? Yeah, Mona, what if we could get rid of people? Okay, all right, everyone take out your sticky notes. Okay, so people, right? And what about people makes difficult conversations difficult? Emotions, absolutely. Theirs and yours. Good, what else?
Worrying about offending them.
Yeah, right? So worrying about offending them, recognizing that whatever it is we're going to say is going to have an impact, and wanting to do the best we can to soften that impact where appropriate, or to make sure that the impact comes across as hard as we need it to in order for them to hear what we're trying to say. So how do you negotiate that? Good. What are some other reasons why difficult conversations are hard?
Lack of preparation.
Lack of preparation, right? So you haven't spent time thinking about, what do I want to come out of this conversation? What do I need to say for this particular person to hear me? And maybe they're not prepared to have a difficult conversation. Good. What are some other things?
Different expectations.
Absolutely. Different expectations of what this conversation is about, what the outcomes are supposed to look like, and how we might want to feel at the end of it. What else? Yep.
Differences of opinion.
Differences. Absolutely. Differences of opinion, different perspectives, different experiences. Yeah. She stole yours, okay. Or another perspective would be, you shared one. Okay, good, yes. Ego, okay, so you have an ego. Let's talk about that. Yeah, right, so our feelings get hurt. Our ego tells us that we are right. And the belief that we are right is really human and natural and really gets in our way. Really gets in our way. Good. Any other things that strike you as what makes a difficult conversation difficult? You can't script their response. You're absolutely right. You could anticipate it based on what you might know about somebody, but you can't script it. What you can do is spend a little time on your side planning for what it is you might say and what outcomes you're looking to achieve. Yeah.
I think through the way they perceive you.
Absolutely, right? So all we're constantly doing is managing other people's perceptions of us. Mona had mentioned that in their talk when she said, you know, you're at the gym and you're thinking I look ridiculous doing my squats. You don't worry about that, except that for many people, perception is reality, right? Good. So we're going to be talking about what we can do to make some of these difficult conversations a little bit less tricky. And the good news about this topic is great for work, and this topic is great for home. So on my team of communication and presentation coaches, we've got presentation experts, we've got communication experts, branding experts, negotiation and mediation experts, but we also have on our team a parenting, marriage, and family coach, because sometimes you're lucky if an easy conversation happens during the workday and then you go home and those are the toughest conversations you need to have. So we sort of what-ifed, right? What if we had an expert for any kind of conversation or presentation challenge you could find at work, but also in life as well. So here's what we're going to cover today in the next, we've got about, 3.5 hours? Yeah? Okay. So today we're going to cover understanding entitlement. And when anybody here goes, yeah, I know some people who are entitled, it's actually not what I mean, so hang in there with me. We're going to talk about entitlement, understand the role of behaviors, ours and theirs, the 4 factors that will keep conflict and difficult conversations alive and kicking, and what we can do to prevent them or manage them, and then some next action steps for you to move forward. So just a housekeeping rule, as I mentioned before, we don't actually have 3.5 hours. You are seeing a little subset of something that's often a 1.5-day workshop. So what I want to offer you is most of what I'm talking about today, everything I'm talking about today will be in the slides, but I also have an online ebook around 50 tips for helping ace your next big presentation or difficult conversation. So if anybody is interested in getting further information, just give me your name and email, and then of course I will sell the email list. And you'll get more tips and tools, and we'll just pass those back. Okay, more tips and tools than we can cover in an hour today. All right. let's take a moment. I'm going to ask everybody to take a moment to think about a time that they can remember where a conversation didn't go as well as you had hoped. Some of us may need to remember back a year, some of us a month, some of us like 20 minutes ago at the bathroom break when you called into your office or called your home. But take a moment to put one conversation in your mind that didn't go as you had hoped. Okay. And if you're like me, you might be thinking, which one? Right? Which one do I pick? Which one do I pick? What went wrong? Yeah, Jennifer. That's okay.
What went wrong was I overestimated this person's emotional intelligence.
Ah, overestimated their emotional intelligence.
I should have started here.
Ah, okay. Right, so you didn't take the appropriate approach going in and realized next time you would start at a different level. Yeah, good. Good. Other things. Angela.
I didn't feel supported.
Okay.
My interpretation was that they weren't. My husband wasn't supportive.
Okay, all right. Luckily, I have a master's in social work, so we can pull out a couch at any moment and really go into that, right? So you didn't feel personally supported in the conversation, right? And that's when emotions escalate and words come out that we wish we could pull back and, of course, can't. What else went wrong? Yeah.
I was listening to my lawyer with another lawyer, and I kind of got involved when I should have just listened.
Ah, okay, beautiful. And we're going to talk about listening today, right? So it was, I overstepped my bounds and found myself, yeah, got messy. Yeah, so part of what I'm hearing in there was a role you should have been playing and a role that wasn't the right role for you, and you stepped into the role that wasn't the right role. Yeah, oh, all genius happens in retrospect, right? Absolutely, good. Anything else? What went wrong? Yeah.
I wasn't clear, wasn't doing a very good job of articulating my thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, okay, good. And what I love about this suggestion is really owning it, right? So we have a couple of examples of I recognize that there was something in me that I could have done differently. Good. Yeah, last one.
I put the person on the defensive by saying a you made them feel like they did something wrong immediately, so they stopped listening.
Yep, absolutely. So coming in with an attack,
What you're doing wrong,
somebody
yeah.
just shut down. Yep, absolutely. Good. So, and I'm sure we could spend our whole hour remembering when, but I want to take all of this feedback and turn it into feed forward for what we can do moving forward. So I mentioned earlier on that we were going to be talking about entitlements, right? People who are entitled. When you think about people who are entitled, how do they behave? Obnoxious. What else? Arrogant. Cocky. Yeah, we all know some of them, we work with them, we live with them, and I'm going to ask us to think about entitlements from a different perspective. And what I want to share with you is what I believe everybody in this room and everybody that you work with and everybody that you live with is entitled to just by being human beings on this earth. Okay? So, I believe that you are entitled to be treated with respect. I believe that you're entitled to have the right to express your feelings, opinions, and wants. I believe that you have the right to advocate for your own priorities. You have the right to say no without feeling guilty. Let's just take that one for a moment. You have the right to say no without feeling guilty. Okay? You have the right to have opinions that are different from other people's opinions. You have the right to speak to people in positions of power without fear. You have the right to take care of and protect yourself from being threatened physically, mentally, or emotionally. And you have the right to create your own happy and healthy life, whatever that means to you and for you. Okay, we're going to let that sit for a second. These are the things that you are entitled to. And I want to ask you to think about that list and identify one or maybe more than one that you recognize you don't always feel like you get to do. So it would be an example of a right or an entitlement that sometimes gets pushed down in favor of other people getting their rights or entitlements met, or something that gets ignored, or something that people run roughshod over? Which of these do you sometimes feel like you don't have the right to? Yeah.
So as a mom, I think number 3,
Yeah.
advocating for your own priorities
Yep.
becomes very difficult.
Yep. Okay, good. So we're going to hang on to that one. So sometimes you feel like you don't have the right to put your needs first.
Right.
Yeah, good. What else shows up for you? Yes.
Number 4,
Mm-hmm.
as a boss of a lot of younger people who tend to be of the original entitlement definition, I think it's hard to be a boss and say no to them, because
Yeah.
it's such a, well, if you don't give me what I want, I'll find somebody else who will.
Great. Okay, good. So sometimes you feel like you don't have the right to say no. What are some other things you feel like you don't have the right to, or that other people don't respect and observe your right to do this?
I would say the right to express your feelings, opinions, and wants, specifically like at work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes I think that our bosses feel like we shouldn't have different opinions.
Yep. Okay.
We should have a united front.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right, and I think there's a difference between presenting a united front to the public, but actually having the opportunity to express where you have some differences. Yeah, good. One more. Yeah.
So on the flip side, on the
Yeah.
4 part, the same one, you have the right to say no without feeling guilty, but for me as a mom, saying no so that I could do something outside of work and saying no to the work
Mm-hmm.
without feeling that, not that I'll be reprimanded or set back, but there's always sort of that mindset that I can't just say no and just be gone.
Yeah, right. You got to show up.
Sort of something.
Yep, good, good. So whether it is we are struggling with saying no without guilt, whether we feel like we can't really put our priorities first, whether it feels like we don't have the right to have different opinions, especially from people in power, when we feel like we don't get to say what needs to be said or feel how we want to feel, what behaviors might we notice on you? Okay, so Mona gets crabby. Warning, everyone. Mona gets crabby. Good. What else? Okay, so crabby, angry. What are some other behaviors we might notice on you? Resentful. Ooh, good. We're getting into juicy stuff now. Good. What else might we see? Yeah. Vindictive. Okay, watch it, that section over there. Just watch it. Good. What are some others? Okay, so you're just wiped out. Yep. Good. What other behaviors might we notice on you? Shutting down, withdrawing, getting negative. Good. Okay, so apathy. Yep, good. Distracted.
Walking on eggshells.
Walking on eggshells. Right, being very cautious. Good. What else?
Stress.
Defensive. Great, thank you. Stressed. And what does stress look like on you? Everybody's stress looks different. Me looks like I'm sitting down with a bowl of simple carbohydrates. I don't know what your stress looks like, so whoever said stressed, what is it? What's the appearance of stress?
I cry a lot.
Weeping. Okay. All right. Excellent. So, and so far so good, right? We haven't had weeping yet for an hour and 15 minutes. Good. So, I want to just point something out. We have today among us a group of people who are angry, withdrawn, resentful, weepy, vindictive, negative, and more. Okay? How do I know that we have that? Because you just told me. You just told me that that's who you are when you feel like you are not getting something important to you recognized, noticed, or met. How many of you work with people who are sometimes negative, angry, who withdraw, needy, tiptoeing around you, vindictive, negative, stress cases, weeping, right? So, but so far so good, right? So far so good. We all work with those people, and what do we call them? We call them difficult people. We call those people difficult people. My interpretation of what those people are people who are not getting a need met. They are people who have something that they value, the need to express a different opinion, the ability to say no without guilt, the ability to ask for some me time, who feel like because of you or because of the environment or something going on, they can't get that need met. And what I'm going to ask you to do is the next time you walk into the workplace or walk into your home place and say, oh, this person is a pain in my ass, I'm going to ask you to have a little bit of empathy and recognize that person is me under stress, right? And even if that person withdraws, but I'm more likely to shout, I want you to recognize that your difficult person is somebody who has something to which they are entitled that they are not getting met. It's not necessarily your job to entirely solve that problem, but it is your job to bring a little bit of empathy to them and start to get even a little bit curious about what's going on for them that is putting them under a stress condition so that I'm seeing these behaviors, right? And it's really different and really personal. My husband under stress withdraws, and I under stress get loud or louder. If you could possibly imagine, I get even louder, so don't stress me out, folks. Okay, I'm mic'd, it could get very dangerous. Right? So everybody expresses how they don't get their needs met differently, and it's something that I want us to think about because we recognize it in ourselves. So let's think a little bit about where conflict originates. And I know that in the introduction today, we talked about, wouldn't it be amazing if difficult people would just disappear? Well, one of the titles of my favorite books that I did not write, but I wish I had, yeah, what if I had written that book, Mona, right, is Make Difficult People Disappear. And one of the great perspectives to come out of this book, number one, is that we can't, which is a total bummer, and I immediately wanted my money back. But a really healthy perspective to come out of this book is that conflict occurs when we demand and expect people to behave in ways that is not natural to them or known to them. We expect people to behave in certain ways that we don't understand why they don't understand what it is we're looking for or how to do it. Does that resonate for some of you? Right? How could they not know? How could they not know, right? And so along that line, here are some really unhelpful perspectives if you're trying to improve your communication and your relationship with people at work or people at home. So how could he or she not know the right way to behave? How many of you have ever had that perspective? Okay, all right. They should act the way I expect them to act. Good, thank you. I love a nice, honest crowd. Is it because you like tapped into the bar already and your defenses are down, or you're just in it? All right, how about this one? They should act the way I act, right? I know how to act at all times, clearly. Why don't you just do it like me, and all the problems would be solved? Okay, not helpful. I am right, they are wrong. Okay, right? Okay, not helpful. I mean, it makes our egos feel good, but it's not helpful in moving through a conflict. Okay, my view is the only valid view. There's one way to see this, and this is the way. Okay? It's just her personality. I feel like I'm getting laughing from people who have already thought that 10 times today, right? Right? So this is the 11th time you're hearing it. It's just who they are, right? There's nothing I can do there, and I either have to, let it go or fight every time. So this one is for you, Abby, yes? I'll just see how he likes it when I give him what he's given me, right? All right, so not a very helpful perspective. It might feel good, but ultimately long-term doesn't help us down the road. And here is my most helpful perspective. And if you walk away today with nothing else other than this is the one that I want you to lock in your mind. The most helpful perspective that you can have is that it is highly possible that you are your difficult person's difficult person. I heard a moan from the front row, so please excuse me one second. What was the moan coming from here? So, would you like to say more about the moan? She would not. No, because the moan could lead to deeper moaning, and then we could have multiple weepings. Okay.
We might have to have that therapy session.
We might have that therapy session. That's absolutely fine. So, what strikes you about this? Okay, so there is some truth to this. Good. What else strikes you about this? It's a different perspective. Yeah, and we know that because I used the word perspective. But yeah, it's another way of looking at it. What else?
It's an opportunity to be empathetic to the person.
It's an opportunity to be empathetic. Good. What else? Yeah.
Kind of along the same lines, it starts with you.
It starts with you. That's right. And for those of us who are managers, spouses or partners, children, parents, right, which is like a lot of relationships all rolled up, we probably have learned at this point in our lives, or I would hope so, that we cannot make anybody behave in a way they do not want to behave, right? It's really, really hard work. The best chance that we have is changing our own behaviors. If you keep in mind classic systems theory that says that in any system, all you need is for one part of the system to change in order to get other parts of the system to change, the part of the system that you have control over is what? You, right? And half the time we don't even have that much control over ourselves, right? So I want you to imagine how hard it is for us to change our own behaviors. It's 10 times harder to get somebody else to change theirs. So I'm going to invite you to think about how you might change your part of the system. And keep in mind that if you're stressing me out, it's highly likely that I'm stressing you out, right? If I'm getting the sense that you are snippy with me, you're probably experiencing me as snippy with you as well. And so I want you to think about your difficult person and your difficult conversation as a mirror so that you can see what is my role in this. Okay. So let's take a moment of what if thinking. I have to pay you $1 every time I say that, right? Trademark. So let's take a moment of what if thinking. I want you to think about somebody you know who handles difficult conversations smoothly. What if you behaved the way they behave in a difficult conversation? What behaviors would you be using? Yeah.
Listen.
What? Listen. Just kidding. I heard you. All right. So listening, really listening. Good. Excellent. Right. 7 years of improv just for this moment, my friend. All right, listening, excellent. Good. That's so good, I'm gonna just take a moment to flip chart it right here, listening. Okay, good. So, what else? Empathy. All right, so I'm gonna come to you in just a moment. So empathy, what does empathy mean for you?
Try to truly put yourself in their shoes and understanding how they're viewing it.
Beautiful, beautiful. So take the other person's perspective on. Yes, that was yours. Okay, yes.
Highlighting positives.
Highlighting the positives, looking for the good, right? Looking for the good. Excellent. What else do these brilliant communicators know how to do that you might embody?
They ask open-ended questions.
They ask open-ended questions. Great, and we're going to talk about that specifically today, about what that is and how to do that.
Bookending positive with the constructive criticism and then the positive.
Ah, interesting. So a feedback sandwich, if you will. And I will invite you, if anybody at some point wants to talk to me about feedback, we can talk a little bit about what the Harvard Business Review says about the feedback sandwich and why there are actually more effective ways. But it sounds like for your good communicator, making sure that it starts off positive and ends off positive feels like a better way to face a difficult conversation. Yeah, good. Patience. Yeah. Ooh, it's not something I embody, but I love the feeling of that. Something to work on. Patience. Great. Good. Yeah, Jennifer. Staying calm. Yeah, good. Eye contact, right. And I'm going to just take a quick moment about eye contact. A lot of the work that I do is in presentation skills, and so eye contact is a really important part of that. And if you are planning to have eye contact with people, which is a good thing, you want to be careful that your eye contact isn't too close and too long, because while eye contact is a good conflict management tool, too close and too long means one of two things. We're either about to duke it out in the parking lot, which is not a great conflict management strategy, or we're totally about to make out. Which is a great conflict management strategy if both people say yes. But in the workplace, it can get HR involved really quickly.
I was sick this week, so
Yeah.
I don't wanna get
That's fine. I'm good. I'm good. So. Eye contact, you want to make sure that eye contact doesn't feel like a stare down or a combat, but you do want to stay connected with somebody. Yeah, Angela.
So I admire people who are very skilled at addressing the pain points, not skirting around it with positivity, and yet coming out of it with a win-win. Like it starts us Or
Yeah.
it starts off you and you.
Mm-hmm.
You come out of it us.
Yeah. So what I think I'm hearing there is something with a willingness to go there.
I love people who go there.
Yeah, right. A willingness to go there, and then coming out of it with something that feels like both people are supported, because supported is clearly a value for you, and that everybody feels better than they did perhaps than when they started.
Yeah, thinking of it as the pain point is an opportunity.
Yeah,
for growth.
excellent. Great perspective. Thanks, Angela. Nika.
What you just did is what I wanted to say. You know, what I hear you saying is
Mhm.
repeating back to make sure
Yeah.
you understand.
Yeah, and so thank you for that. And an important thing about repeating back to people can sound really weird. It's something that I learned when I was in social work school, and then something that I learned when I got trained as a coach. And it starts to feel phony if all you're doing is saying, so what I hear you saying is, and then you repeat back verbatim what you heard them saying. So it's something to keep in mind, but the best tool that I can give you around repeating back is repeat back what you think you hear them saying and be willing to be wrong, right? So I could have just said, Angela, what I think I hear you saying is that support feels really important to you. And Angela could say, it's not about support, it's actually around integrity. That's fine that I didn't name it right, because she got to clarify what really was important for her. So be willing to name it wrong and have the other person say, you're not hearing me, because that gets you closer to what they really want to be heard for. Make sense? Right? And I'm a coach. People pay me to do that, and I name it wrong. I don't name it wrong on purpose, but by naming it wrong, they get to name it right, and that gets us closer. Shoshana is also a professional coach. Do you notice that as well with your clients? That's right. So just be willing. Yeah, just be willing to name the thing you think you're hearing. It doesn't have to be right. Okay, good. So anything else we know from our models of having difficult conversations?
Add prepared.
Yeah.
They know what their point is and stick to it and why it is their point.
Yeah, excellent, good. So that clarity around, you get to it, and your clarity around what it is that you want to get to, right? And so these things that we've heard here, listening, empathy, open questions, positivity, get to the point rather than beating around the bush, are all things that I want to invite you the next time you have a difficult conversation to put a picture in your head of somebody who you'd like to step into, right? Somebody you'd like to step into. So my husband, Michael, is a middle child. And he is a classic middle child where he is a peacemaker. He sees both perspectives on things. And when I find myself getting heated in a difficult conversation, I channel my Michael. Right? I say, okay, you know, WWMD, what would Michael do in this moment? And I try to embody that. And I have lots of different people in my mind for lots of different kinds of conversations, but I want you to have at least one. Okay? So, who would your one be? I don't want to give you homework. I want to have you do the work here. What would your one be? Who would you want to be more like in a difficult conversation?
This guy back here.
This guy. Yeah, which guy?
Jeff.
Jeff, okay.
Tremendous at handling difficult conversations.
Okay, excellent. What's that like for you, Jeff, to hear that?
I have a lot of practice doing it.
Okay, good, right? So isn't that nice? He doesn't know it a priori. It's something he learned along the way. Okay, good. Who else would you like to channel or embody?
This one's really good at them as well.
This one? Okay, and what makes her good?
The preparation part, I think, comes from Tammy. Like, she goes into it knowing exactly what needs to come out of the conversation.
Yeah. Okay, good. And what's that like for you, Tammy?
I don't know. I didn't realize. I'm still looking to improve so much.
Okay.
So I'm flattered. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, all right. So, important life skill, ladies and gentlemen. When somebody gives you a compliment, the appropriate answer is, thank you, right? So, I often notice people do their version of, what, this old thing, right? Oh, this, please. Oh, this is easy for me, right? Oh, this is what I do all day. Oh, that's no big deal. Oh, please, I'm a work in progress. Just say thank you. Just say thank you. Okay, good. So, there was one more hand. Sean, was that your hand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom.
Your mom.
Yep.
Why your mom?
Super compassionate, and the empathy level is at a place that I've never seen it.
Excellent. Okay, great.
And she deals with my dad.
Okay, so what's your plan to tell her this?
Call her as often as I can.
Okay, and you'll give her this specific feedback?
Text her.
Yeah, I would like you to text her right now.
Put her on speakerphone.
Okay. Is she on Twitter?
Put her on speakerphone.
If she's on Twitter, is she on Twitter? Okay. All right. You said your dad is? No.
That would make my day.
Okay, that would make your day. All right. So we'll send a request to. Okay. Oh my goodness, we have so many more things to talk about. May we keep going? Yes. Okay. Did you text your mom? Okay, right? So Shoshana, you know this, right? Part of being a coach is being an accountability partner and making sure that people do the thing that they say they're going to do. So we're just going to wait.
Don't mind us, Sean.
Yeah, don't mind us, Sean. We're good.
Can I read it out to you?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. What did she say?
She takes days, if not hours. to
Okay, but please don't start with a lady in a workshop told me I had to send this down. Okay.
read. Hey Mom, I love you. Thanks for teaching me how to be compassionate.
I wish I had a mic so I could drop it now and go boom, we're done. You can't do that with a PowerPoint clicker because then you have AA batteries everywhere. So what do you think about that? Yeah, and I just want to use this for learning purposes. It's so beautiful we shouldn't muck it up with learning, but let's just take that and create a learning opportunity with that. You are going to have difficult conversations with the people in your work and your life, period, right? Right? Lots of experience doing that. The more you can give people ongoing positive feedback, which are called, as Stephen Covey calls them, deposits in your relationship bank accounts. The more deposits that you can put in a relationship bank account, the easier it's going to be to have that difficult conversation when the time comes. So Sean is putting a deposit into the relationship bank account. That means that when he has to tell his mom, oh, by the way, I'm going to be late for Thanksgiving, or I won't see you New Year's, or any of these other things, I stole money from the family, whatever it is, whatever Sean does, he's got deposits in the bank account. So if you're thinking about difficult conversations, make sure you're putting enough deposits in that bank account so that when you need to make a withdrawal, you can. Okay, so Sean, thanks for modeling that. You'll let us know. You interrupt me at any time if she texts back. Okay, even if it's in 3 days, you call me. Okay, all right. All right, so Dale Carnegie tells us when dealing with people, remember that you're not dealing with creatures of logic, but creatures of emotion. So here are 4 ways to ensure that things stay difficult, tricky, and challenging, which means that we are going to sort of what if the opposite of them. So one way to keep it tricky is avoid bringing it up altogether, whatever your it is, right? Just let a lot of time go by, right? Because things just shrink and then naturally disappear, right? That's what tension does? No? Okay, am I misreading the situation? Okay, another way to keep it alive and kicking is to be unapproachable. Make sure that nobody wants to come near you, and make sure that when others try to freeze you out, you just let them. Okay? And we're going to go into detail of all of these. Don't adapt. Okay? Please don't adapt to anybody else. Your way is the right way. Okay? And I want you to feel really confident and immovable around that. Okay? And then the 4th strategy is assume that you know everything there is to know. Preferably not just about this conversation, but about in life. Just assume that you know it all because you are a smart cookie. Okay? And smart cookies just know everything. So these are the 4 ways that chances are you might have kept conflict alive longer than you meant to, and 4 ways that if we reverse the trend can help you improve your conversations at work, at life. And whether these are managerial conversations, I work with a lot of fundraisers, so solicitors, right, who have to raise money, salespeople, difficult conversations, customer service conversations, conversations with perhaps 2 13-year-old twins who sees their mom travel a lot, and that can lead to a lot of tension. These are skills for everywhere. So let's talk about avoiding. And James Richardson tells us in his book, Vectors, all work is the avoidance of harder work. Right? Everything you're doing, right? So for those of us, I know that I have a nice little group over here of people who avoid writing. Please put your hand up if you avoid writing. Okay? Yes. All right. So not just this side of the room, right? If you avoid writing or any other kind of chore, you're doing work, but it's avoiding the thing that you really don't want to be doing. So I want you to think about any time that you have created a scenario where you are planning a very long path to go around somebody at work so that you can get to where it is that you need to be, right? So whether it's walking the long way to your desk or whether it's emailing 7 different people so that you don't have to email the one person who would actually have the answer for you, we put a lot of work into avoiding harder work. So we need to stop avoiding the issue. Question for you. What types of discussions do you tend to avoid? I'm going to lead off with money. Okay, money. Okay. What other kinds of discussions do you tend to avoid? Yeah, Nika.
People not doing their job.
Okay, right, so accountability conversations. Good, what else? Commitment. Okay, yeah, good.
Overly emotional conversations.
Oh.
I know my friend broke up with a boyfriend or something.
Yeah, all right, like, ooh, that's messy. Yeesh. Okay, good. Yes? Criticism. Okay, where you need to give it or where you need to get it or both?
More on the receiving.
More on the receiving, all right? So I am so ready to not avoid criticizing you, but let's put off the one where you criticize me for like, I don't know, 6 years. Does that feel like a good amount of time? There was a hand over here. Politics. Okay, smart move. I'm just going to give that, right, blanket smart move, especially at work. Yeah, Jennifer.
I tend to avoid the conversations where I'm 99.9% sure of what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah, okay, good, good. All right. Now, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to turn to people, just your local group for right now, and I want you to see if you can come up with a quick list. I'm going to give you a minute to brainstorm, not like Mona's generous 3 minutes. 1 minute. What are some avoiding behaviors? Okay, what do people do when they're avoiding? 1 minute, go.
Yeah, talk about like fill with something else.
think so?
And you haven't avoided me at all. But that other issue is really what topic around the issue. I don't really, generally speaking, I don't avoid conversations.
Okay, I left my little chime at home. Ding! Thank you, Nika. What are some avoiding behaviors? Yeah, it was 1 minute. So this would be a difficult conversation. I don't have enough time, and I'm thinking you've had too much time. Let's talk about what we mean by time. Okay, so what are some avoiding behaviors? Yeah.
Too busy all the time.
Okay, make yourself too busy. Good. What else?
Shifting the necessary response onto somebody else.
Mm-hmm, right, that's your job now. Good. Abby, what did you have? Lying. Lying. Vindictive and lying. Okay, this is right. Right, this is great for the Motivate Design brand. Okay, vindictive and lying. Okay, good, yes. Can't reach me. Sorry, too busy. Too busy. What? Shut them out of your life. Absolutely, right? So, and anybody in this room who has ever been disconnected from somebody, right? Somebody that you do not want to see, whether it's a family member, a coworker, former friend, the amount of mental energy that goes into having somebody in the world that you are trying to avoid is overwhelming. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. Okay, good. So I want you to recognize these behaviors in yourself, but also I want you to recognize them in others. And let's just take a moment. Every behavior that we engage in gets us something, even if we say we want to change the behavior. What does avoiding get you? How does it serve you?
Instant gratification.
Okay, right? So things are easy right now. Good. What else?
It can provide time to let emotions.
Right. It buys you time. Good. So, and it keeps you emotionally safe.
Yep.
Good. What else? Yeah, but right now we're talking about what it gets you.
You avoid it.
Yeah, okay, right? So it buys you time, it buys you safety, keeps you conflict free, right? And I want you to know that this isn't just about conflict communications. Any behavior, even one that you say, this is stressful and I want to change it, you've got to start by examining what is it getting me, because it's getting you something, otherwise you wouldn't have the behavior. Okay, Shoshana? Oh, I love that. Keeps your righteous indignation for as long as I don't have to deal with it. I am so sure I'm right, it's oozing out of my pores. Yeah, right? I mean, that's my like ode to right. Like, would you like to smell? Right? I'm wearing ode to right. It smells awesome, people. Awesome. Yeah, good. And then, very quickly, what are some of the benefits of not avoiding and just dealing with it when it is small, when it is now, and dealing with it directly? More manageable. It's over, right? What else? Less stress. Move on to the next thing, and less time for both parties to make up stories. Right? That's all we do when we have conflict. All we do is make up stories. We make up stories about what they intended, what they meant, what they were trying to do to me, how much they knew that that was going to hurt and bother me. The sooner you deal with it, the less time you have to make up BS, because that's what we're doing with our time. And all of the stories we make up help to reinforce the fact that we are right. Okay, so I want to provide you with a little bit of a script. So this is one of the things that I found that my clients really like is, where would I even start the conversation? So here is a way to start the conversation, and you can turn this into language that works for you. I've been avoiding mentioning your lateness up until now because I wasn't quite sure how you were going to react, right? Or I wasn't quite sure when was the best time to bring it up. I'm bringing it up now because your lateness is impacting me and the team. And the most important part of this conversation, I realized that I should have brought it up sooner. Who does that start with? You. Okay? So this is some language, and I believe, will you make the slides available to everyone? Okay? So this will be available to you, right? And language like this is in the little ebook as well. So I realized that I should have brought this up sooner. That's your responsibility, but yet you're asking for something really specific. So good language to try, and you make it sound like you. Okay, our second technique, here's how to keep conflict alive and kicking, is to make sure that you are unapproachable and that you don't ever talk to anybody else who is freezing you out. So what makes somebody seem unapproachable? There are three ways in which people do it. They do it verbally with the actual words they use. They do it vocally through tone of voice. Yeah, feel free to ask me a question. I'm open, right? So words they use, tone of voice, and through body language, right? Through body language or even use of space and environment. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. These first two rows, with the people sitting next to you, you're going to brainstorm what is language, verbal language people use to make themselves seem unapproachable. The next two rows, you guys are going to brainstorm vocal, what tones of voice make people seem unapproachable. And the last seated role, and then the couch brigade, you are going to work on nonverbal, what body language and also what environments do people create to make them seem unapproachable. And you guys can join in on any conversation that you like. Okay? And the at-home audience, you feel free to do that as well. Okay? So we're going to take 2 minutes, Angela. I've doubled it. Angela wants 2 minutes on this one. Okay.
Other than being blunt, other than being like, listen, I can't talk to you.
Okay, ding, ding. All right, thank you for bringing your attention back. We have 2 more to go and just 11 minutes. So, team verbal. What is some language that people use to say, don't approach, What's an example?
What?
Ah, okay. Oh, I like that combined verbal and vocal too, right? Because what, right, or even what if, could be lovely, but what combines the two? Yeah. So what is some other verbal, other language? Yeah.
I'm really busy right now.
Yeah, I'm really busy right now. Good. What else?
I need to check in with my partner first.
Yeah, I'll check in. I'll check in on that. Yep. Got somebody else to talk to. Yep.
Now
Good.
you send me an email about
Yeah, send me an email.
Now's not a great time
Yeah,
for me.
now's not a great time. Okay, good. Let's move to team vocal. What tones of voice do we hear on people?
Condescending.
Yeah, oh, great answer. Thanks. Good. Okay, condescending. What else? Loud. Unless you're naturally loud and then you have a career as a speaker. But yes. Okay, so loud, right? And so what kind of tone of voice?
Well, it could be,
So dismissive? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. So dismissive, aloof. Yeah, good. What other tones of voice? Short. Yep. Got it. Okay. Yeah, say that again? Yeah, not genuine at all. Exactly. Sarcastic? Yeah. Really? What happens at your workplace?
I know. Some people are really, they're baby. I understand totally, completely what you're just like, really? Yeah.
Oh, that's totally different than what I pictured because I was like, do you really, really want the project done by Tuesday? Yeah, okay, yeah.
Same thing, it's sort of taking that very youthful, like trying like really, really understand, just like a mom, just being like.
Okay, excellent example. And you know, this reminds me, I know we have one more category, nonverbal, which we'll get to. One of my favorite TV shows is a show that nobody watches other than me and my family called The Middle. I don't know if anybody here has seen it. Okay, and so there's a wonderful scene where the mom is having an argument with her high school son, and her son is talking to her about her tone. And she says, "What tone? I don't have a tone. Why is everybody talking to me about a tone?" Right? And she can't even, she's tone deaf to her own tone. Okay, back row and skid row. Nonverbal. What are some examples of nonverbal?
Always looking at your phone.
Always looking at your phone. Good. Crossing your arms. Good. What else?
Avoiding the topic.
Avoiding the topic. Okay. What are some other nonverbals? Not looking at them, right? Or staring them down. She's sick, so I'm coming to you. Yep. Looking at your watch, right? Looking behind somebody to see if somebody is coming in who's more interesting or perhaps can rescue you from this. Yes.
Seeming ready to have a response rather than just listening genuinely.
Excellent. Good. And we also use our environments as well. So when somebody comes into your office and you just stand up, right? They go, "Oh, I better get to this pretty quickly," right? Or having no chairs available, not like having a full bar. Right, that's very inviting. So here is how what I'm gonna ask you to think about next, right? Because we start with ourselves. If I'm being honest with myself, I can sometimes seem unapproachable by. How would you answer that question for you?
Appearing too busy.
Yeah, great, thank you. What else?
Just an attitude that you project.
Yeah.
Project like,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you might sometimes project an attitude. Yep. What else?
Keeping my headphones in or like sitting away from where I normally would.
Yeah. Okay, so moving your seat, keeping headphones in. When I was in junior high school, one of my very first dates with a guy, he wore his headphones. And it wasn't until like several years of dating later that I realized that's not cool. That's really not cool. So, okay, so a little bit of language. If you're dealing with somebody who seems to be unapproachable, I'm not always sure the best way or the best time to approach you about name the behavior. The reason that I say this is that when I've approached you in the past, here's what I've noticed, okay? And you're not going to interpret the behavior, you're just going to name what you notice. I notice that you stand up at your desk. I notice that you say I'm busy. I notice that you say you'll email me later and I don't get the email. What do you recommend moving forward, right? So that's direct and then collaborative. Tell me how to work with you better. Okay? And you make this language work for you and for the person that you're dealing with. Okay, number 3, let's not adapt to anybody else, shall we? Okay, we have a way and our way has worked with us this far in our lives, so why change it? Well, if what you're doing isn't working, you're gonna have to change something. So here are some differences that can lead to conflict, and as you hear or read a difference that you recognize, oh, this is a difference I experienced with somebody at work or somebody at life, Just put a hand up. Different behavior. Anybody here behave differently from somebody at work? Okay. Different understanding of what rules mean. Different relationship to the rules. Okay. Different understanding around control. Yeah. Okay. Understand time and timeliness differently. Okay. How people handle uncertainty, right? Like I'm the kind of person who would rather have bad news than no news. But that's not very mature or helpful, okay? Different values. How many of you see you have different values from people you live and work with? Different goals, okay? Different ways of getting stuff done. Different methodology, different performance standards, okay? Different understanding of what cooperation means, right? So I think cooperation is I tell you what to do and you carry it out to my expectations. Amazingly, some people don't consider that cooperation. I don't know why, but it's different, okay? Understanding of authority, different, okay? Different understanding of what taking responsibility looks like, okay? Different respect for resources. Jennifer, just keep your hand up the whole time, okay? And different communication styles. So one of the things that's really interesting is around communication styles and how we need to change this. As you see on the little card that was handed out, one of my jobs is that I teach at a business school in Beijing, China. And so I've had to learn a lot over the last 5 years around different kinds of communication and presentation skills. And in this book, Andy Molinsky's book, Global Dexterity, he talks about 6 different ways that people have cultural differences. And I realized that these aren't just for across the world. They also are interpersonal because you communicate differently than I do. So one thing to think about is how direct can I be with this person, right? I'm somebody who likes a direct approach. Angela, you like a direct approach. There are other people who will wither away under a direct approach. So you need to think about how direct can I be? How much energy and enthusiasm can I bring to the conversation? This will come as a shock to you. I am highly enthusiastic and energetic. My husband, the engineer with the MBA, probably feels that inside, I'm assuming, but you wouldn't know it from looking at him, right? So I have to tone things down when I talk to him. Formality, right? How formal do you need to be with this person? Will the conversation be better in an informal way or a more formal way? How assertive can I be with my point of view, or do I need to be a little bit more passive and roundabout? I language versus we language. How much do I want to talk about individuals versus what we all are going for together? And then personal disclosure. Some people feel really comfortable if you share something with yourself, and other people go, this is work and that's creepy. Don't tell me what's going on for you at home, right? So the book talks about what this looks like in Israel and China and Brazil and the US. I'm saying this is what happens in your workplace and this is what happens in your house, right? So these are different elements to think about, okay? And then number 4 is assume that you know everything that there is to know because you are a smart cookie. And one of the greatest things that I learned in coaching school, and Shoshana, maybe you did as well, is the importance of being curious, right? The importance of being curious about what is going on over there. What does it mean to be curious?
To be open.
To be open, yes. Good. What else?
To always be learning.
Always be learning. To wonder. No preconceived notions, right? Which is really hard when you know this person and you know the way they behave and you know what they're up to and you know what they're planning and you know what their tricks are. What would it be like to say, that's fascinating and that seems not to have been helping me. Let me put that aside and wonder, and here's my key curiosity question, I wonder what's going on over there? Because I'm still working on what's going on over here, right? This is like a hot mess. So I'm trying to figure this out. I'm a hot mess in conflict. What's going on over here? I for sure can't know what's going on over there. So what would it be like if I were curious about what is going on over there? And when we get curious, we can find out from people what the other person wants, what their priorities are, what their challenges are, what drives them, what they're scared to ask for fear of embarrassment or disappointment. People will do anything to avoid disappointment. Anything. Most of what we do is to avoid disappointment. What perspectives they have, what assumptions they have, who you remind them of, what this situation brings up for them, and what they really, really need from you moving forward. And we can only do that by being curious. So one great curious question is, what if? Right? Right? What if we weren't fighting about this? Right? What if we weren't fighting about this? What would we be talking about instead that's maybe more important? What are some other great, open, curious questions? Nothing better. No. So what are some worse questions, but also valid? Okay. What do you want? What do you want? What's important to you here? How can I help? How am I getting in your way? What else? How do you feel? Okay. What else?
What do you think about?
Yeah, what do you think about? And how about this question that I've said 3 times already? What else? Because when we're in conflict with somebody, our mind is telling us, shut that thing down. Shut that down, don't learn what else, because what else could lead to more problems. And I want to encourage you to ask, okay, and what else? And be brave enough and willing to hear it, right? So we're going to ask open questions that don't judge, that don't set a trap, right? A great question is not, well, shouldn't you have considered that before you put it in the proposal? That's not a great, warm, open question, right? And the most important thing, whether you're dealing with a difficult conversation, a difficult person, or even just learning more about yourself, as Albert Einstein tells us, the most important thing is to never stop questioning. So, before your next tricky conversation, I'm going to ask you to reflect on one of these. What's one thing from today that you're going to try, or one thing that you heard today that you think somebody else would benefit from hearing and you're going to pass it on? Sean already did his homework. He gets complete credit. What's one thing from you? Yeah, Nika?
I'm going to channel you when I have a conversation with my husband.
Okay, excellent. So what would Deb Riegel say? Yes. Good, excellent.
Can we
Good.
call you if we're ever like?
No, I don't have a business model to support that kind of thing. So, right, so Angela knows that in addition to my company, which does coaching and training, we offer emergency services around difficult conversations and big presentations. So yes, you can call me or a member of my team depending on what your tricky conversation is. Thanks, Angela. Okay, don't ding me for that. That was Angela. Okay, what else? What's one thing from today that is going to stick for you? Yeah.
Understanding that you might be your difficult person's person.
Ah, you are your difficult person's difficult person. Yeah, good. One more sticky thing for you.
What do you recommend we do going forward? I like that
as a question. Good, so you're going to adopt that one. What do you recommend moving forward? And what I recommend for you moving forward is to take one thing from today and just experiment with it and see what if. Thank you so much for your time today. Have a great lunch. And you'll wrap us up. Great, thanks.